Okay, so hello, we've got Lorna and we've got Charlotte and me, Jo Moffat, and ironically we're going to be talking about how to combat Zoom fatigue or Teams fatigue or Hangouts fatigue or Skype fatigue or whatever other video conferencing platform you care to name. And of course the irony of that is not lost on the three of us, I think, given that we're using Zoom to deliver these Hive panels for you all. But let's start. We're going to explore whether it's a thing, and I think we'll all discover that it really is a thing. And then we're going to talk about how we can address it and what we can do about it, and perhaps understand a little bit about what causes it. So, personal experience, Lorna. How about you? I think you hate Zoom, don't you?
I can't bear any of these things. They drive me bananas, and probably because I was traumatized when we're doing a global job with a global virtual team in a really, really intense period of work a few years back. And I could spend probably 10, 12 hours a day back to back on Zoom or Skype calls. And it's absolutely exhausting. It's just, yeah, I think I said I've been traumatized. My 5-year-old niece has the best approach. She's just point blank refuses to do family FaceTime now. Won't do it. Too many of you all talking at once. I'm out. Yeah. Not interested.
Yeah. How about you? How are you finding it, Charlotte?
I'm going through it right now. I'm living this. I am the living embodiment of Zoom fatigue on every single part of my life, from my work to my 7-year-old's intensive interactive homeschooling, to feeling compelled to do. We're caught in the middle of not just one, but 2 weekly pub quizzes, one on a Friday night, one on a Saturday night, all delivered by Zoom. I am as zoomed out as you can possibly get right now. So I'm really going to listen to the advice that we give out and take it myself today.
Yeah. Oh my God. I remember started doing this years and years ago. I used to sit on the board of a global financial services company, and we used to have board meetings over the early iterations of these kinds of platforms, and you'd be on an 8-hour board meeting on this format, and I used to come off and I was just dead. Absolutely horrendous.
Well, apparently the science does bear this out, though. There's been some research done by a professor at INSEAD, and he has said Zoom fatigue is absolutely a thing.
It's real,
and he's talked about some kind of reasons why. I think the biggest reason really is actually we're so used to kind of being able to pick up visual cues when you're interacting in a space with people, and these visual cues aren't there anymore. So our brains are actually in overdrive at the minute, trying to work out and trying to work through how we pick up on all these subtle cues that we take for granted when you're interacting face to face.
Yeah, I think the other interesting thing, and it really rang home for me when you were just talking about all those different roles, those hats that you're wearing, Charlotte. And one of the things he was saying was that that's just not normal. It's not normal to be mum and work Charlotte and friend Charlotte at the pub, all in the same little 16-inch screen. It's bad. And our brains kind of cognitively can't make sense of that, and that's just taken up so much energy to work with.
And I think the other thing is this whole idea of when you're on camera, the whole self-conscious aspect. Suddenly you're watched, you're looking at yourself and wondering how you're coming across, and then that's putting an extra level of kind of stress and pressure on the way that you're kind of presenting yourself.
And then and it's not just the screen freezes or that awful can you hear me, who was that, and all that sort of judgery stuff that goes on, and you're on mute, you're not on mute. But there's actually is some scientific stuff I was reading around the whole issue around silence, this minute time lag between what we may or may not say, or what I may say and then Lorna might reply or Charlotte might reply now, means that we start to think less of people, we trust people less, we don't like them so much. There's a sense that we think less of people. And of course that's the technology, for goodness sake.
Exactly. And then the really sad fact is that this all exacerbates our sense of loss. So seeing us all just kind of on screens reminds us that actually we should all be in the workplace just being normal, or down the pub with our friends having a proper pub quiz and not just a virtual one, or really going around and seeing our mums and stuff.
So there is some factual stuff behind it, and we're all experiencing it, and I'm sure our listeners will be as well. So what can we do about it, Lorna? Any thoughts from you?
So the biggest thing for me is remember that you can say no. So Zoom or whatever platform you're using is not the only it's not the only option to communicate and collaborate with colleagues. There's lots of things that you can do. You know, I prefer picking up the phone. 100% prefer picking up the phone and maybe screen sharing versus getting on a call with a video. I think the problem is people drop these calls into your diary and you feel like you can't turn them down.
Say no.
Can.
Yeah,
you can.
You can. I mean, it's interesting actually, because Charlotte and I are work colleagues, and one of the things we've found really effective, and we've been long before this actually, is using Teams audio calls and collaborating on a SharePoint file. There's no visual interruption. We're both looking at exactly the same screen in front of us, and we're working on it and collaborating on it. And that is a really, really productive way of doing things without all that added distraction of, you know, people you know, all over the shop, isn't it?
That's it. I mean, I'd say it's probably as effective as working face to face, Jo, wouldn't you?
I would, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the other thing, just kind of picking up on Lorna's point about saying no to back-to-backs, is also just kind of maybe doing stuff in between. So get up, walk around. You know, I'm a big fan of my YouTube workout videos. You know, do a 5-minute, 10-minute workout video. Go make a cup of coffee. Kind of just have some time when you're not staring at a screen just to break it up.
So important. I mean, you know, for your physical health as well as your mental well-being. You know, physically, I was hearing that sitting is the new smoking. So if you're sitting there looking at a screen, what you're doing to your eyes and your physiology, not good. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think practically as well, I think probably just having good meeting etiquette as well. So it's, you know, making sure there is a facilitators, making sure there are some clear objectives, making sure you're not spending longer on that video call than is actually necessary.
Yes. I mean, I think, you know, there's some hideous stats, aren't there, about meetings generally before all of this and before the whole Zoom thing. You know, meetings generally in the workplace, what proportion of those are productive? How many of them are hideous experiences? How many of them even need to actually happen?
And it's just exacerbated now.
Now this has just made it even worse, hasn't it, really?
Yeah. So, and then I think the final point is actually kind of a more social point, is not to get caught up in digital FOMO, fear of missing out. You know, it's okay not to be on every social Zoom call. It's okay not to join every house party. You know, my husband and I have made a conscious decision that we can't carry on doing Friday night and Saturday night virtual pub quizzes because it is genuinely exhausting us.
Doing your head in.
So now we're doing alternate, one Friday, one Saturday, week after week.
Yeah, for sure. I think the best thing I ever did when I was doing that job that I was talking about at the beginning was realising that I could just, you know, unplug the computer, plug my headphones into my phone, go for a walk. I'm lucky to live near some countryside, and have the same conversation with somebody out in nature, just, you know, moving. Same stuff was getting done, but I felt 100 times
I think
better.
that is such a good point. You know, we're not tethered to a desk, actually. So, you know, to use this as an advantage to do exactly that. That's a brilliant point.
Yeah. And I would just reiterate something we talked about in, I think it was the last Hive, about the importance of one-to-one interaction. You know, this sort of gallery of faces, some of whom you do or don't know, some of whom you may or may not actually need to know, appear on your screen, beaming into your home. As a line manager, people leaders, I think it's important to remember that actually the value of the one-to-one interaction with your people is paramount, and to make sure those are built into what you're doing. So
good. Well, I'm certainly going to practice what we've been preaching there and try and put that into action from tomorrow.
So the next Hive recording, maybe we should do it out in the woods.
Possibly.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's been great. Thank you. Hopefully you've got some useful tips from that, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.